Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday episode of 0 to 1. We're up to episode 32 now, which is exciting as well. And see lots of great content that's been on here. We've got a really interesting theme this week, which is talking about, how you can do better from a retention point of view. And we know that our members are both entrepreneurs, they might be freelancers or solopreneurs, for example. And there's one kind of underlying theme, which is, if you can get the most out of your margins by retaining customers, then it's going to benefit you across the board. Whether you are somebody who relies on maybe just a handful of clients that you use every now and then, if you can think of ways to retain them, or if you're a business and you're growing and you have customers that come in, that buy a product from you or a service, and you want to make sure that they kind of keep coming back and maybe tell their friends as well. So we're really excited about this topic, and we're really also thankful that Paul is joining us, who's an expert in many fields, a serial entrepreneur, working across many different roles, and is based in lovely Bali, where I'm sure I'd like to be right now. But Paul, yeah, thanks for joining us. If you'd like to maybe just do a quick intro to yourself, and then we can jump into the slides.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jamie. Jamie, can I just share my screen?
Yeah.
Right, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. I am based in Bali, and it's not as nice as Jamie or others may wish it to be today. We're having big storms. A lot of the ports are closed. Sanur, Barangay, Benoa, they're all closed. In fact, even Gili, all the boats to Gili are closed because of the
Oh, wow.
rough waves. So people can't get back, and school starts next week. So exciting times out in Bali. Yes, I'm from the UK. I've been in Indonesia 20 years. Before that was in Vietnam. I'm a agency guy. Worked on the agency side for a decade, and then on the client side for about 20 years in a number of roles, mainly in Indonesia, B2B, B2C, some to do with marketing, some to do pure commercial, driving sales. I'm a very much a strategic thinker, which is why I believe that a lot of businesses spend a lot of money on acquiring customers, but not enough money on keeping those customers, which are most valuable to them. So that's today's topic is retention. And I kind of turned it into a bit of a masterclass in the idea that I'm hoping to get you guys to feed back to me. Can I just check? Are you all based in Singapore? Can I get some nods, hands? Singapore based, everybody?
I think I think you based in Vietnam, is that right?
Vietnam or Singapore?
Oh, Elizabeth, Sri Lanka. Hi, Elizabeth.
Can you all see my screen now?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So there's two real activities in marketing, I believe. One which is very well known, which is finding new customers, and the other one is keeping new customers. So customer acquisition is that simple process of gaining new customers, and it seems to be an excessive amount of money and articles and companies and martech and blogs on the topic of lead gen and lead conversion. Fantastic. Really great stuff. But the minute you've got them, they could leave in a heartbeat, right? So you spend time to get into your business, you persuade them to buy your product, right? You make your sale, you generate your revenue, you grow your customer base, all right? Everybody's doing it. Whatever stage of the life of your business, you have to do it to survive. Have you actually sat down and worked out what you're spending per new customer that you've acquired?
Yeah, we look at that as well.
Sorry?
Just to say, we look at that as well, obviously, because we do some advertising campaigns and we do emails to people and things like that, and all of those tools and things have a cost to it. So yeah,
That's right.
It can get quite a lot, especially for new founders, because they are sometimes in a new market or a niche, or trying to build education, so they're having to also spend from an awareness point of view as well. So yeah, it can be quite costly.
Is anybody here doing training? What sectors do you work in? Products, training, services? I can't see the answers, Jamie, so relying on you to.
Yeah. I'm waiting. I think this might be red typing. We could put hands up or on mute as well.
So then retention is the process of keeping your customers. But most important part, not just keeping them, is growing the value that their business is worth to you. Okay? You do this by nurturing and strengthening your relationship with them. Keeping customers active and engaged, keeping them happy, right? If they're happy, then they're going to spend more with you. And they will become advocates. Advocates is somebody who supports you, your product or services, and is going to tell other people about your business and how fantastic it is, right? I'm just about to launch a cat food business in Bali, and I've had 15 cats testing the product during mid-July, rather than just at the end, thank you very much, you've given me some great feedback, I know which flavors work best, I've learned a lot, thank you. I'm turning that panel of testers, the pet parents, not the cats, into a founders circle. I'm turning them into a founders circle, and that founders circle will be my VIPs. They will get lower prices, free products, first access to new products. They'll be my advisors in some respects when I want to test an idea, run a concept by them, and I'm going to basically look after them. I'm doing this because I want them to become my first advocates. I want them to become my fans. Yeah. Doesn't cost a lot to be nice to somebody, right? So whenever I deliver the food, I didn't send it via Gojek or Grab. I went to their house, sat down, got to know their cats, and talked the talk about the product, listened to their concerns, so that when they do join the Founders Circle, they feel that they have a kindred spirit there.
Yeah, and just on that point as well, Paul, like their cats, their family in that sense as well. So there's a strong emotional connection there. So the fact that
Totally.
you're doing that, I think, makes a big difference. It shows that you're invested in, an important member of their household that they, want to make sure is a nutritious food and everything like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I've done my avatar analysis on my cats, and I'll talk about it a bit later. But there are three different types of buyers I've identified. Yeah, I'll come back to that in a minute. So retaining customers, right? Brands which can hold on to just 5% of more customers can increase the profitability of their brands, of their business, by between 25 and 95%. Different sources I've got for this. I can dig them out if you want me to go back to them. This makes repeat business a priority for you. Should be that once you get them in the door, spend more time pumping the bill with existing customers than spending time fighting for a word, fighting for just to get your message out there to acquire new customers. You don't have to do that with existing customers. You don't have to fight for earshot. You don't have to fight for them to listen to you. They want to listen to you, as long as you've got something good to say. It's the most important thing you can do, retention, and it's how you're going to grow your business longer term. Retention is, I can't see move this, is cheap. Is cheaper, certainly cheaper than acquisition. You've seen these all before. I don't want to have to go over old ground, but everyone knows it costs 5 to 7 times more to acquire a new customer than it does to keep an old one. It's the old adage of marketing, right? So if you spend $100 acquiring 10 customers, right? The next $100 you should spend is on keeping them, not on acquiring another 10 rather. Cost a company $234. I don't know where this number comes from. Every time you lose a customer, there is a cost to your business for losing a customer. Different ways of looking at it. It could be from an asset point of view, from a reputational point of view, right? And of course, when you look at what the cost to acquire them, that's lost money. Loyal customers are worth 10 times more than worth 10 times more as much as their first purchase. So I remember when I bought a lawnmower in the UK, and there were no instructions on that lawnmower on how to use it. Yeah, we all know how to use a lawnmower, but I wanted to connect with the company that provided that lawnmower, but there was no way to do it apart from emailing them, right? And that was a failure in their onboarding. To a 0.5, 78% of online customers recommend a brand to friends after a great customer experience. That is why I'm spending time with my pet owners who provided their animals for my testing and enrolling them into my founders circle.
And actually, on that point as well, Paul, we've spoken recently with other business owners about the challenge of achieving product market fit, which is obviously one of the goals of an early stage founder. And I think it's fair to say that product market fit is the point where you have an interest from someone to buy your service or your product, but also they're willing to recommend it to other people. So
yeah.
So what you're talking about there, like, is a contributing factor to achieving product market fit as well.
Mm-hmm. So I think what you're saying is product market fit is that for launch purposes.
Yeah, as in, if you're an early stage founder and you're looking to get investment, then quite often these days investors will want to know, okay, what revenue have you got? Have you achieved a product market fit? Like, does the service you have to offer or the product you have to offer have an actual market defined for it?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, when we've been discussing it in recent weeks, is around the fact that someone will obviously want, if no one wants to buy your product, then you probably need to go back to the drawing board. But even if someone buys it, they need to also feel that advocacy and being able to share it with other people as well, because then you've got to that point where you can scale based on that.
But you can only do that if you change your attitude and your thinking and your approach to putting on a retention mindset to get to know that person. I've acquired you, I've converted you. Most people then walk away from them, but that's the time when you need to walk towards them. So post sales, right? Acquisition can only fuel your growth for so long, okay? Planning and retention and managing retention will ensure your long term. I said this in the previous slide, I'm saying it again. Post sales should be your primary battleground. So how do you retain them? Okay. Listen, I mentioned this before, listen and meet their evolving needs. Go with your experiences. Get to know them, profile them, personalize your communication to them. Obviously, you would use CRM for that. Keep them engaged and interested. Yeah. Reward them. Then we're moving into loyalty programs. Okay. And then build them into a purpose-driven tribe. So I've worked on all of these. So first of all, keep them engaged and we'll get to know them, profile them. First of all, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Does that work? No, it doesn't work. Can you see that? So this is a Kanwar. Does that see, Jamie?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a Kanwar. This is a big brand from Unilever. And I worked for a company who was doing QR codes. These QR codes, we all know QR codes, but when I was doing QR codes, I joined them before COVID. And QR codes before COVID were not used very much, really. They were a bit of a fad in Asia. and totally misunderstood in countries like Germany and America. But with COVID, of course, people then started to adopt them as a way to have contactless connections. The QR codes that we used were copy proof. That means that they could not, in any shape or form, be copied. So if I put a QR code onto this mouse, let me see it, this mouse, then that mouse would get its own passport, unique to that mouse. That, of course, means that the mouse itself can be tracked. The mouse can then be checked for its being authentic, and the QR code as it stays on the mouse can then become a channel for communication. This is again going back to this is I then we put it on Kanwar packets in Vietnam to try and sorry, my background has been strategically shaved. So the idea being is that it's a way, it's opening a channel with buyers, firstly, before they've bought the product on the shelf in the supermarket. And then when they get home, we encourage them to scan the QR code, in this case, multiple times. And every time that they scan the QR code, a different experience is available to them.
I remember we were talking as well, Paul, just reminding me when we were talking about, was it the tire company, right? They also used something for the QR code, didn't they? On
They did, yeah. So this again, I'm going to show. So this is I work for a big American lubricant oil company in Indonesia, and we use QR codes under the lid to link between the purchase, the mechanic who made the sale, right, and the program. So when this lid was removed, you can see the QR. There's a Q.
Mhm.
Can you see the QR code? There is
Not just
yeah, there
yeah,
we
yeah,
go.
I see it. Yeah, yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
so that's one time use QR code scanned on there, right? And each one is unique, so they're serialized. The power of that is massive. The price of that is really cheap. You'd be surprised. Once you've got them into the program and they're transacting with you, your goal should be to move them away from purely transactions to building an emotional relationship. And I'll talk you through how to do that as part of the building blocks of retention. First, just a little bit a side point, and an important point about CLV. How many of you work your business around CLV? Hands, please. If you build your marketing, your sales around the long-time value of your customer. Jamie's putting his hands up.
Man,
Anybody
yeah,
else? No other movement? That's because you don't do it?
possible. Yeah. I
Possibly.
mean, I would say that even from our point of view, that's something that we looked at later down the line, and we should have looked at sooner. To be honest, just being transparent from our point of view.
Yeah. So a customer revenue is £500 in year one, and you expect that your relationship with them will be over 10 years, and the cost of acquisition is 50, then your CLV for that customer is 500 times 10 minus the cost of acquisition. Don't forget the cost to serve, right? You do have a cost to serve. You have to invest in retention. Retention is not a free exercise or a free ride, but it's a lot cheaper than acquiring customers. Also, because you use a different platform, you're not fighting for attention. You're not having to sharpen your elbows to get a message out to acquire somebody, to get their attention, because they're there already. They're buying from you. They've already bought from you. So it's a lot cheaper and easier. So in this example, you could estimate that the customer's value to your business is nearly £4,500 over 10 years. And when you can see it like that, when you can do that calculation, you can walk up to a finance guy who hates marketing, doesn't understand marketing, and show them what the long-term value of acquiring that customer is today.
Yeah, and that doesn't even take into account that they might buy other services or products in that 10-year period as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. So here are the building blocks of retention. There are four: onboarding, CRM, communication, relationship through a CRM system, feedback, getting feedback on your customers. I'm simplifying it here, and loyalty programs. So let's go into onboarding first. What is onboarding? Anybody comment, communicate? It'd be so great if somebody could contribute something. What is customer onboarding, Jamie?
The process of them getting to know your product or service and becoming, well, getting set up, I guess, really with access and what they might
Yeah,
need.
there's partly the access bit, the setup, the Q&A, how does this work? Blah blah blah. I bought a new camera. Not really sure how to make it work. Can you help me? Can you talk me through it? Oh, I've just signed up for this bit of software. Right, there's this really cool AI tool I just bought from you. I don't really get it, and I don't really like watching videos. Can you give me kind of an onboarding session? And companies that do that, I find, and I've been buying a lot of tools over the years, immediately go up in my world. They're like, you've not just sold me a product, which I've bought, but you've also realized the value in keeping me on board by showing me how to use it. And showing me how to use it is also a chance for us to get to know each other. Yeah, so what's the culture like at your company? I see your headquarters is in New York. Are you from New York? Oh, what do you do? Well, how did you get into this job? And boom, you just built a small relationship with somebody. I do it all the time. I always get onboarding sessions. I always book them up whenever I buy a new piece of software. And I love speaking to people around the world.
Yeah, I noticed Apple when I was living in Hong Kong. They I'm sure they do it everywhere now as well, but this was pre-pandemic. They did these sessions where you could go and learn how to, you know, use your new camera phone, and they would take you even on a walk around the block and take photos of things as a group. And
Brilliant.
so there'd be like 10, 20 different people there, which was pretty good actually.
Yeah. And that was free.
It was free. Yeah, it was free. You just have to
Yeah.
sign up. They had an afternoon session, an evening session.
Yeah. Because an onboarding session is also a chance for you as the brand owner to pitch a bit more, to push the value of your product. You know, of course, because you bought the Apple phone. I just want to remind you again why Apple is so fantastic, because you've got that person's attention during that onboarding window, right? It includes the time that you have with that person to guide them. You give them demos, show them how to use it. Why is it important? Okay, it puts customers in a positive frame of mind. They're open to having an experience. They've requested it, or it's part of the process of buying the product. Onboarding is part of that package. I mean, even when you join a new company, you should be getting a proper induction, right? And so many companies don't even do that today, you know? According to research by Profitwell, a positive onboarding experience significantly decreases user churn within the first 7 days of purchase. Churn. What is churn? Churn is when customers leave you, right? You want to keep your churn rates low, 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 low.
Yep, know that one.
Do first impressions matter? Yes, they do. Effective onboarding programs familiarize your customers with the brand and set expectations for what your product or service can do for them. Dyson moved their headquarters to Singapore. Dyson was looking last year, was it, or 2 years ago, for a head of retention. I would have loved that job as long as I would be allowed to bring my QR codes and put them onto Dyson products and then basically open a channel. You just bought a hairdryer and I can start talking to you through this hairdryer. This is fantastic, right? Oh, you want to get curly hair. Oh, you need to use that add-on for it, you know? And you build this and you can build a relationship through them with the QR code, with a Dyson and turn them just not just for buying the product, but turn them into a super advocate. Oh, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Some examples. There's lots of them here. Sephora is a big one in Singapore. The head of loyalty used to sit there. She's now sitting in New York. Body Shop. I remember once I was walking around. Pondok Indah is a neighborhood within Jakarta. I was walking around on a Sunday morning in a big mall, and it was completely dead at 10 a.m. and the mall just opened. But at Body Shop, it was packed. Why? Because they were having an onboarding session for all new loyalty members to their program. The only requirement for that particular day was that they had to have dry skin. So that was a dry skin workshop at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning in the Body Shop, because people have said, we've joined the program because we like your product. We think you can help us with our dry skin. But the onboarding was also customized, personalized, smart. And there's a lot more here. So extended warranty is a very common way of getting people to register post-purchase. Yeah, if you register, then your warranty will increase from 1 year to 2 years. So no brainer. Where do I do it? Now, the only problem is that if you don't use a QR code on the box, people have to faff about filling in a form or jumping in a URL or emailing a form in. A QR code is the simplest way to do it. Scan it, and also by having a QR code, you can customize that QR code to be the model of the product you just bought is already preset.
Or just a quick question. These are obviously fantastic examples. I guess maybe number 5 is a little bit more in the line of what I was going to ask. But what about if it's like service type businesses as well? So maybe it could be consulting, or as you mentioned, training earlier, for example. Like, what would be a good use case for them? Would it be like do a Zoom call? Would it be do something in person? Do you have any off the top of your head that you think of?
I mean, obviously we've got to be cautious here also about the time and cost involved of this. So,
Yeah.
if it's normally if it's a B2B service being provided, then the margins are usually big enough to warrant, an account manager to set up a call with that person, just like they do, for example, when I sign up for a Martech software online. Were you saying B2C or B2B?
I'm just sort of thinking of the different types of members that we have, and
Uh-huh.
some are B2B, like a consulting, for example, could be like a management consultant or a marketing
Yeah.
consultant or someone of that nature. But then they may also be B2C from a service point of view. So maybe thinking, I'm trying to think of something now. I guess it's something that would involve a subscription, I suppose, or maybe an ongoing thing, because all of these product examples are great examples if it was something physical, I guess.
Product,
In
but
this.
not services. You see what it tends to happen though is that when you bought a service, your first onboarding session is going to be the debrief as to what you need. I mean, an onboarding in this case is something extra. It's a bonus, right? And you're doing it to help each other. You both benefit
Mm,
from it, right? Um, but it isn't it up till now, it's not normally core to your experience of the product, right? But
yeah.
if you change that mentality and think like a retention mindset, then you make it core to the product and the experience, right? Um, I'm trying to think of an example of a service for B2C. Um, Possibly it could be a holiday. I mean, it could be a holiday. I'm like the trekking wildlife. So you sign up for that holiday, and the onboarding for the holiday could be a testimonial of people talking about their experiences on that holiday. Um, Although that could also be used to try and help the sales conversion as much as the post sales. Um, but there's no reason why, if you're a big ticket spender, or just have, look, I bought the holiday. I'm coming to Nepal trekking, and I'm a little nervous. Is it okay if I have an onboarding session with you to find out if your company is well prepared in case we get kidnapped by some Gurkha nutters or something, or communist nutters. It used to be back in the day. So that it could be that in that respect, Um,
Yeah, fair. We do have a question in the chat actually from Rosie, who said, "Great examples. How can we offer this for a new wellness brand?" Any good examples on that one from a wellness point of view?
the onboarding. Can you give me a bit more specific about what kind of wellness?
Oh, I think she might have dropped for a moment. I know. I think she's having some connection issues because I've noticed that she's sort of come in and out. And okay, we'll pause on that one, and we'll once Rosie's back in,
We'll
we'll
come
ask her.
back to that again.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, I would have thought the best thing to do there is to have a series of live blogs on certain topics, scheduled throughout the month, so that hey, I've just signed up for your wellness program. I can see that you're doing, something on stress management. I mean, again, wellness is such a massive topic. So
sure. Yeah,
here in Bali, it's about yoga and it's about, spiritual enlightenment and jumping off cliffs and what I don't know. Yeah, there's so many things. So it depends. So what I'm trying to say is each of these could be I would again better to have them live than pre-recorded, so that people really feel they're getting something
yeah,
specific to them. And also by joining it live, you can put your own questions to the specialists.
yeah, yeah. That sounds good.
So, so ask yourself, if you were to do onboarding, what do you think your customers need to know about your brand? What do you think they need to know about using your product? Yeah. What do you think? What do you want to know? What do you think you need to know about them in order to maximize their CLV and their experience, of your product? What is the best channel to have that conversation? Is it through a QR code off a pack? And I keep talking about QR codes because I worked in that space for 5 years, but no one ever talks about it. Everyone talks about, oh, just get a CRM platform. Well then it's going to be another WhatsApp group. This is different. So if you buy a pack, I just bought a packet of cereal earlier on today. Put the QR code on the cereal and tell your child to, if you interact with that QR code on the packet, each day you can have a new game to play or a new scavenger hunt, virtual world, real world, all off the back of a packet of cereal.
Yeah, I've seen McDonald's have done that with some of the Happy Meal toys. When you scan the QR code, it makes like a virtual reality
Yep.
dinosaur or something like that as well. So yeah, there's loads of use cases for it, which
Yeah.
could be great.
And it doesn't cost a lot of money. It really doesn't. Yeah. And I've got some pricing later on.
I
Okay.
see
Remember.
Rosie's back by the way as well.
Okay.
So just while you, oh, actually, I see. Um, okay, so she mentioned yoga retreats and self-care products
Okay.
from the one's going to be.
Right. So yoga retreats, there's all types of retreats, Rosie. I live in Bali, as I mentioned before, and there are so many yoga retreats on this island. It's mad. So if I'd chosen or was, don't forget, onboarding is post-purchase. Yeah. So they've already chosen this yoga retreat over that one, or they've paid a deposit with you for you to find a yoga retreat appropriate to their needs. So it could be that a certain type of yoga, it could be the language in which the yoga class is taught, it could be the setting of the class itself. Is it in a paddy field? Is it at 1,000 meters? Is it within view of the sea? I'm just speaking aloud here, different options. So if somebody's going to customize a yoga retreat, how long is the retreat? Apart from yoga, does it also include detox? Does it include, you know, uh, skincare programs, facials, whatever that, beauty therapy as well? Can you get a colonic irrigation? That's a big thing at the moment in Bali. So there's lots of customizations to be done. For signing up people to you as a consultant to provide them with the advice and package to their particular requirements, well, I mean, it's a combination of one-to-one consultation plus, as I said before, when I think you were offline, live sessions around different topics related to your sector. So you could have a live session on Ubud in Bali. Again, it's the capital of the yoga scene. Ubud versus Canggu, for example, is always a big debate. Where do I go? The other one is, in a yoga space, should I go to Yoga Barn, which is the granddaddy of all yoga, yogites, which gets 1,300 people a day, or should I go to a more intimate, upmarket place, and what are the pros and cons? So these could be live sessions that you run, on a regular basis every month, and the onboarding processes people plug into them to learn and
Yeah,
to ask questions.
I think that's the fantastic examples. I think you just mentioned these live blocks, and then you have them, and a little bit like some just kind of referring back to what when we did these 0 to 1 sessions, the key thing that we all agreed on is that we wanted to be consistent with it. So we wouldn't just do one session and then 2 weeks later we haven't had another one in that sense. So I'd say for Rosie and for everyone else on the call, make sure that you can sustain it. So if it's going to be 2 blocks a month, you make sure that you make that time for that and you block that out. Otherwise, if you do it 2 and then you don't have it the next month, then people will start to wonder, okay, well, what happened? Are they not happening anymore? And you can lose that sentiment quite quickly.
And I mean, also the fact that you're doing these live classes, courses, as part of your onboarding could be on their own a reason for people to buy into your product because they're so insightful, they're so content rich, they're so current. You're such an expert in them on your topic that people want to sign up for you. And it could be part of the product itself. So it's kind of like, well, when does a product start? And when does the product finish? Is
Yeah,
is that live session part of the product, or is it part of the onboarding? So then you get relationship building. I'm concerned about time. We got about 12 minutes to go, 15 minutes to go. Is get to know your customers and manage their relationships. Yep. Um, invest in a simple CRM system to track them. WhatsApp group is pretty good, but remember when WhatsApp groups get busy, you're going to need a moderator. And if your groups are global, think about time zones. I had a client last year who ran liverboard boats. If anybody knows anything about scuba diving,
scuba diving. Yeah,
that's right. And he's got a lot of boats in different parts of the world. And what was happening was that people were going on the boats and they had a great time, 12, 14, 16, 20 people. And then, of course, WhatsApp group was created. It's great, but, after a year, you've got, a dive leader who's on his WhatsApp phone. He is kind of like the moderator for 30, 40 groups. I mean, totally unmanageable. You've got to find a way, you've got to step out and put it onto a different platform, and then have a master moderator who can create content for all groups, right? And then slice and dice people according to either their level of dives, if they're junior, senior, whatever, their level of interest. Oh, I just do it for photography, or I do it for environment. Oh, I do it for discovering the world. So you got different ways of slicing the onion, so content created for that, etc. So customer needs management, as we're saying. Okay, CRM is very useful for that. And I will talk very briefly at the end about potentially cheap CRM platforms. Okay, Body Shop, I mentioned those to you earlier. Make relevant and targeted small talk. How would you start a conversation? Jamie, I'm sure, is like me. He's a pretty good networker. We could throw him into an airport lounge in the middle of a thunderstorm when our planes are taking off, and within a couple of hours, he's got 5 or 6 business cards. It's all about making small talk. It's about connecting with people, getting them to trust you, and then just starting a conversation. Simple as that. Yeah. But you have to go beyond just talking. People want a bit more engagement. They want a game. They may want to call to actions help. If you talk to me, if you do something for me, if you scratch my back, I'll do something for you. All right. What will engage your customer? Is there a value exchange opportunity? Value exchanges is the core tenet of any good loyalty program. You are exchanging something. I'm doing something for you, so you will do something for me of value. Best example of that is, and I mean, as I'll talk about in the next example, what kind of content would you create? So customer feedback. This is a perfect example of a value exchange. You ask a customer who has just signed up with you, or maybe has been 6 months using your product, to give you feedback in a survey form. That is, if you do that for me, I will give you something super duper for you. That could be points. It could be access to a higher tier in a program. It could be a discount. Please don't use discounts. That's not how to build loyalty. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I've created a founder's circle for my cat food testers, and feedback is key. So for people to stay in the founder's circle, they have to keep feeding back to me about what they're hearing in the market, about the product, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It says what it does on the tin. I don't need to read everything here, but benefits regular feedback are customer satisfaction, product improvement, improve customer loyalty and retention. And that's exactly what I'm doing with the Founders Circle.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know we're a bit time constrained, but that bit you just mentioned about having that founder circle, you can then relay to them and say, look, we've actually, I don't know, we've made the packaging X% more efficient because we have another provider, and maybe this can be passed on from a cost point of view. Like people, your customers want to hear about how you're building and everything as well. So it's worth having that regular feedback with them.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so customer feedback. I'm just going to jump ahead here, ask them a question. I'm concerned about time here. LPs, loyalty programs, my bread and butter. I love good loyalty programs. I did my loyalty qualification certification in Singapore. I think it was 3 years ago. And unfortunately, in Indonesia, most loyalty programs are what we call kartu member, and are not loyalty programs at all. They're just discount cards. That's all they are. So you spend money, you get a discount. Discount will not build a long-term relationship with your customer. Okay? Your loyalty program also needs to have a purpose, right? So I will create a loyalty program for my cat food, and it will be based on transactions will be the initial core thing, because they do want to get lower prices, but I won't let them get lower prices. I will let them get earlier access to products or free products, but I will not discount my product. That's key. Who benefits, right? And then so we talked about that. So then here's some loyalty programs. These are 3 British ones, of which I'm a member. Marks and Spencer's. Tesco Club Card is the granddaddy of loyalty on the planet, right? Because they understood the concept of basket analytics, whereby you go into a supermarket, and if you've got 6 items in that basket, you can then profile that person based on what they're buying. In that basket will be a champion or a hero product, which may be more expensive. If you want that person to come back in again, well, I'll give you an example. I work for a supermarket chain in Jakarta, a premium expat one, right? A bit like, Jason's they have in Singapore. And in that basket was a packet of Tide detergent. Why would anybody buy an imported detergent product, at 5-6 times the price of the regular Unilever P&G stuff is beyond me. But somebody would buy it, and I tried to convince the supermarket chain to create a loyalty program because I said the guy who's coming in and buying that every month has a lot of money and not much sense. But if we can find out who they are and we can get them to come in more often, we can make a lot of money from that person. But I won't go into it any further. But that was the logic of the buyer analytics. But it's beyond transactions. To win, you've got to go beyond.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. I think Paul might be having a bit of difficulty with his camera. Just give us a second. I think this is the first time in 32 episodes where this has actually happened. So yeah, first time for everything. Everyone's doing okay. It should just be back in a moment. I'm sure Paul will jump on. I guess it's that Bali internet. It's not as reliable as maybe some of the other places in that sense. So I will just in the meantime, because I'm mindful of time as well. I know he's got a few bits to come through. So just while Paul is on his way back as well, there are a few questions in the Q&A that I'll sort of have a stab at, and then we'll get Paul to also put his input on as well. So one of the first questions was, what are some subtle signs that your customer is about to leave or churn? From our point of view, something that we bear in mind as well, we obviously look and see, okay, how satisfied people are. I used to work for a large SaaS software company, and it was a 12-month agreement that we would sign with businesses like that. And you would quite often see, of course, the first month it was very active. There'd be a lot of usage of it. There'd be people doing trainings and things like that. I see Paul's back now. And then you would see the customers that were in danger of churning were the ones that maybe if you're 6 months in, the usage levels have come down quite a lot, and as a result, then there would be a concern that maybe they've kind of got the benefit out of the software, or they're just not using it as much. And so that was really on our team at that point to make sure that at least once a month we were in contact with them. So otherwise, you'd have a big problem with that. So I would say look at your kind of usage metrics. If you've got any analytics, Google Analytics, something like that, you can see whether there's a lot of traffic in the early months. And then if that changes, if it starts to decrease, then that will be a sign that you might have some churning customers as well.
Yes, I agree.
So
I agree with you, Jamie. There's certainly the activity level. Of course, the other thing is downgrading on plans. I'm doing it now. I've got too much in my tech stack for a different client. And so gradually I'm pushing down, I'm downsizing my tech stack. So, that's a sign that I'm going to be switching them off, or reaching out to customer services for questions like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Are sure signs that somebody's not happy. A lot of the time, it can be that people can't afford to keep such a big. It's so easy to sign up and create a big tech stack, and then before you know it, wow, how much money is going off my credit card every month? Yeah.
yeah, there are some other questions, but yeah, I was just jumping on them while we were waiting for you to come back. But
I just want to just
do you want
finish
to
this
carry on
off
with what you
here.
do? Yeah, yeah,
So here's some idea on cost. So can you see my screen?
yeah.
These are some ideas of what it would cost you to get started with some tools to help you with retention. Scan Trust for the e-labels, the QR codes, the smart QR codes, and I put these in Singapore dollars for everybody. Again, $400 Sing for 300 SKUs is not a lot of money, but I think it's not a huge amount of codes, right? CRM with Zoho, you can do both survey and CRM together for about 350 Sing dollars a year rather. Really not a lot of money, really very, very cheap. But loyalty is a speciality, and that costs a little bit extra. With loyalty, don't forget you've got the platform, you've got the rewards, and you will always have an additional 10% of the value of rewards because you want to employ a company to fulfill those rewards. Yeah. And then bundling this all together, and then with me there as well. just finishing off with me. I'm certified in loyalty. I've been in the business for marketing and sales across Southeast Asia and Europe for over 25 years. Um, done connected packaging, B2B, B2C. I'm quite experienced in all of them, as well as go to market. Um, and my clients over the many years that I've been in this space. Please, what more questions do you have?
There are a couple more I can see in there. I don't know if anyone's added any more in the chat itself, but in the Q&A, there was a couple of questions. So one of them says, is there a point where trying to retain a customer just isn't worth it anymore? And
Yes.
how do you know when to let go?
Cost. You have a look at the cost implications of keeping that customer. How much are they spending? What is the CLV? Is it is it exceeding, underwhelming? Are the expectations of that person delivering below what you forecast? And if they're way below it, then just let them go. Too many times, SaaS companies especially will not let somebody go when they're very unhappy and they want to cancel the agreement or even downsize their plan, but they don't always let them do that.
Yeah. Well, I've had that problem at a company I used to work for where we had the so-called grandfather deals where maybe they came on board earlier on
Hmm.
at a third of what the price of the service is now, and yet their demands for service are significantly higher in that sense. But then when you had a conversation with them about potentially even just getting closer to what the actual price was now, it would usually be quite a difficult conversation. So yeah, that was quite tough, I think, from a business point of view, because you want to reward the loyalty and recognize that they've been there from the early days, but at the same time, if it's now becoming a huge cost on the business, then it's that balance.
Yeah. Anything else? One last couple of questions. We've got 2 minutes to
Yeah,
go.
yeah. There's another question here. It says, "What do you do if a customer is starting to drift away?"
How do you measure drifting?
Yeah, good point. I guess that kind of ties a little bit into one of the questions that was earlier, which was about,
Yeah.
signs that they might churn.
Yeah.
So drift away, maybe less responsive, less active than what they used to be from maybe from communications. Like maybe they don't open your emails anymore.
There's no harm in just setting up a live session where you say, look, we're developing a new product, or we'd like feedback on our existing product. And you send out a message to customers who you think are not happy with what you're providing. You target it only to them so that you get perhaps, and it's going to be a brave person to manage this, but you get only the unhappy customers on the call. And on the call, you make sure that there are some senior VODs there as well to listen to the feedback and perhaps answer some of the more painful questions that a more junior person could not answer. Yeah, that's how I
Yeah,
suggest. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. And there aren't any other questions as well. I think just last point I would say on that is I saw somebody mention it recently. Like a lot of businesses try to accommodate for the happy customers in that sense, and almost try to ignore the unhappy ones. They just kind of say, okay, well, let's block out the noise. But the
Mm,
reality is, if you can fix those problems, like if they're consistent enough, so maybe there are 10 people that have a similar challenge, then it's going to improve the quality of your service. You're going to have people that will become more loyal to you because they will feel, okay, this person actually cares about making things
yeah,
better for me, as opposed
absolutely.
to just selling me something and then leaving me to my own devices.
Yeah, correct, Jamie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
brilliant. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us on this one. Really appreciate it. And for everybody listening afterwards or joining us today, yeah, please do follow up with Paul. Keep that conversation going. I think he's got a wealth of experience to offer on this, as you can see across so many different industries, business sizes. There's a fantastic range there. So yeah, I think there's plenty more we can be doing, and I'd love to check in with some of some of those who listen today, maybe let's see after a few months if you've implemented this, like how did it change your business? You know, what results did you see? Did you see more engagement from your customers? Did you find that you were able to upsell more, for example? I'd love to hear those success stories.
And happy to do a clinic on those again, Jamie, if there's time in the schedule to do so.
Yeah,
Yeah, if people can bring their successes and failures to the clinic, the retention clinic,
brilliant.
you know?
Yeah, and I've taken away some things as well, things that we need to do better on as well. So
Yeah.
I'll definitely I'll keep you updated on that on WhatsApp anyway. But
Brilliant.
yeah, I'd love to hear more from the members as well.
Jamie, hope to see you in Bali before the year end.
Yes, love to. Yeah, yeah. I'll let you know when I'll be visiting.
Okay. Cheers. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.